to you about winter driving. The east of the Mississippi River in the United States and parts of Canada are getting cold. Very cold snap. Tips and strategies to stay out of the ditch and keep yourself safe in the winter time. That's what we're talking about today. Few people are here already. Corey is here. Hello, Corey is the moderator, does an excellent job of getting up the videos I suggest you have a look at for more details to the questions you ask. And Ashley wants a video on anticipation and planning, situational awareness, driving in the wintertime. And Marion is here. Marion says, an atmospheric river coming in tonight and will last until Friday. Apparently I'm going to grow webbed feet at this rate. Excellent. So it is raining in Vancouver, I think is what Marion is trying to say. And YouTube has created a new interface. There's a vertical and there's a landscape, and I'm not doing very well in the vertical, but we're not shooting for vertical. So, but we're trying, because as soon as I read the comments, I'm out of the screen, so I don't know whether I need to move right or left. But anyway, we'll just leave it at that, and we'll go with the video as it is. Elevator fan, hello, tuning in from Monticello, Indiana. Are you getting the cold there in Indiana, my friend? Excuse me. Winter driving. We're talking about more winter driving skills owing to the fact that the black ice driving tips video this week took off and got traction, pardon the pun, and helped a lot of people to drive not only on ice in the wintertime, but also to identify where ice may be located on the roadways. Where you will find ice on the roadways is, first and foremost, the temperature is going to be around freezing, 32 degrees Fahrenheit or 0 degrees Celsius. There's going to be moisture in the air. If you looked at the pileup on I-70 a couple of weekends ago, you can see in the news footage that there's fog. It was, there's snow on the ground. It was melting the day before. There was a lot of moisture and precipitation. There was freezing rain. All that is going to create ice on the roadways because they're wet. Temperature is above freezing during the daytime, and then overnight it freezes and creates ice on the roadways. And I've had many comments from smart drivers that it's just ice. It's not black ice. We never see black ice coming out of a soda machine. So it is just ice that is black, owing to the fact that it is on bitumen. It's on asphalt, and we can't see it. And many people will come back to me and they'll say that there's all kinds of ways that you can determine if there's freezing conditions on the roadway that will create ice and whatnot, that spray coming off the vehicles and those types of things. None of that is true. None of that is true. If you are going to get caught out by ice on the roadways, it's simply going to happen, and there isn't anything you're going to be able to do about it. If there's other traffic on the roadway, it's less likely there's going to be ice because there's a lot of traffic. And when there's a lot of traffic on these busy roads, they're going to send out the sanders, the plows, the salt machines, and those types of things. Therefore, if there's a lot of traffic on the roadway, it's less that there's ice. So these are the conditions. There's a lot of moisture in the air. Bridges and overpasses freeze first. Low elevations, high elevations. Any place that the roadway lies in shadow. Early morning, middle of the night, very little traffic. These are the conditions that are going to create ice on the road and potentially catch you out. This is what happened to me. I was on a 2-lane road. It had been above freezing during the day. The ice and snow was melting that was already here and sitting on the ground. And I wasn't quite paying attention to the level that I should have been paying attention, not knowing that there was other cars on the roadway. There weren't other cars on the roadway, rather. And I went around a corner simply too fast. I was going too fast. I'm never going to blame it on somebody else. I was going too fast and hit a bit of ice. As soon as the vehicle went out of straight, that's when I lost control of the vehicle. And of course, I've had people come back to me and say to me that as a driving instructor, an expert, so to speak, we all know what an expert is. An X is a has-been, and a spurt is a drip under pressure. I am an expert. I am a professional. However, we make mistakes too. So know that. All right. Corey's put up that video on black ice driving tips. Thank you for that, Corey. Thanks for the insights. 7331, you are most welcome. And Elevator Fan says that it is freezing cold in Indiana. Yes, it is. It is cold in the east as well. And we're going to Montreal for Christmas. And I'm hoping, yay, that we're going to have a conventional white winter Christmas. A conventional white Christmas? Yes, that's what I was looking for. And I am going to, next feed, I'm going to shut this off on this portrait thing for the live feed because it's distracting. It's very distracting because I can see it and I'm not in frame. So I'm going to turn it off. Next one. Marion says, yes, it used to be called a Pineapple Express, which meant a big rainstorm. Now it's changed to atmospheric river. Well, Marion, you realize that when you call it a pineapple, what did you call it? Pineapple Express, that somebody's offended. So it has to be changed to something more academic, which is atmospheric river. But then somebody will come back and say that they're offended because it's an atmospheric river. Don't ask me why, but that's what's going to happen. Winter driving tips. Prepare your vehicle, prepare your head. Let me re-say that. Get your vehicle ready for wintertime if you haven't done so already. In preparation for getting your vehicle ready for the wintertime, you're also mentally preparing for wintertime. I am going to Calgary over the Christmas break because we're flying out of Calgary because it's just the way the flights worked and it was way easier. And we're only taking one flight from Calgary to Montreal. So we're driving to Calgary, which is 6.5 hours. I'm leaving the car in the parking lot at the airport because it was inexpensive. It was only like $80 for 5-6 days at the airport. In Calgary, Alberta, Canada, as you know, the temperatures can drop a lot. So I'm already mentally preparing in my head the things that I need to do to the car before I park it in a parking lot where it potentially could go to minus 10 degrees Fahrenheit, minus 25 degrees Celsius. I'm already preparing that I'm going to take a piece of cardboard with me because if it gets extremely cold in the mountains and we're driving, I can take the cardboard and stick it in front of the radiator and reduce the airflow through the radiator so that we can get some heat out of the car. I had that happen 3 years ago. We drove to Calgary on Boxing Day. The temperature dropped to minus 35 degrees Celsius, which is minus 30 degrees Fahrenheit. It was really, really cold. Even after starting the car and letting it run for 15 minutes, we drove from Golden to Banff, which is approximately an hour. And even then, the car did not warm up. What I should have done was should have gone and found a bit of cardboard and put it down in front of the radiator to reduce the airflow through the radiator to be able to allow the engine to heat up and get some heat in the cabin. Now, parking the car for a week in Calgary, if the temperature plummets, the other thing that I need to do before I park the car is I need to fill the fuel tank to the top, and I also need to put some gasoline antifreeze in the vehicle. Two things that are going on there. There is always some water in your fuel tank, and it sloshes around, mixes with the gas and those types of things. If you let the fuel in the tank drop below a half a tank, what happens is that moisture becomes exposed because it's on top of the gasoline, because gasoline is lighter than water. Therefore, the water is in the top of the tank and it will freeze. If you fill the tank up, it forces the water to be mixed in with the gasoline. There's less chance for it to separate from the gas and freeze. As well, the gasoline antifreeze will help to prevent the water inside the tank and the fuel system from freezing while the vehicle is sitting there. If you're ever in a place where it's super cold overnight and your vehicle is parked, go and fill it up with fuel before you park it overnight. That way it will prevent this separation of the water and the fuel inside the tank. And if you have the opportunity to think about it, go and get some gasoline antifreeze and put that in the tank as well while you're filling it up with fuel. This will definitely ensure that your vehicle starts when you come back the next day or a couple of days later or a week in my case, all right? Paul, right turn drivers need to be very focused when they have a right turn green arrow and not stop and the light's holding up traffic. Okay, you had some sort of incident, did you, Paul, at a green light doing a right turn? So we're talking about winter driving. We're talking about some of the things that you can do. As I said, I'm preparing. In addition to that, when we're going to Calgary, because we are going out onto the highway in the middle of nowhere where you potentially could or could not have cell phone service, and this is for other people, tips for driving on highways in the wintertime, have a winter survival kit in the vehicle. And I have one in the vehicle. It's got traction mats and it's got a booster cables, so that if the battery dies, I can get a jump from somebody else and get it started. It has a shovel in the vehicle as well. In the winter survival kit, it has a blanket, but you want to have blankets in the winter time in terms of part of your survival. We know we're going to Montreal and it could be super cold. The three of us are all going to have our ski gear, so jackets, mitts, scarves, balaclavas, boots, and whatnot in the vehicle as well. So that's going to help out. Charging cable for your cell phone. If you get into trouble or end up in the ditch, you want to make sure that your cell phone is charged in the wintertime so that you can call somebody for help, to have somebody come out and get you out of the ditch and rescue you and whatnot. Also, if you're, as we said, we're going in the wintertime, make sure you have some food. We will have food with us because we're going to take the cooler and we're just going to leave it in the car while we're gone for the week and then come back. Those are some of the things you can do to help yourself in the wintertime when you're traveling outside of cities. And it's a little bit different experience when you're driving inside the cities. You don't need to be quite as prepared because you're still in the city and you're access to emergency services, tow trucks and whatnot. On the highway, it's a little bit different and emergency crews may take a period of time to get to you. So make sure that you're prepared for that in the wintertime. Marion, where do you get the traction mats from? Canadian Tire. Marion, my recommendation to you is if you're going to go out on the highway, just go and purchase. You can get a pre-packaged survival kit. You can buy them on Amazon. They're inexpensive. I think they're like $60 or something. Most of those survival kits will come with the traction mats. And there's just about anything that you can use for traction mats. I know that there are specific rubber mats that you can buy. I don't know how well they're going to work. We have tried in the past, in the old days, of getting stuck in the snow and whatnot. Just about anything will work, a bit of carpet or those types of things. But my suggestion, Marion, instead of looking specifically for just a traction mat, look for a survival kit, and then it'll all just come together. You'll have a shovel and those types of things and whatnot, and that's going to be your best bet. Paul, no waiting for a city bus and witnessing a car with a green arrow and not really focused. Yeah, Paul, you're going to get those all the time with people not being focused, especially this time of year when it's dark and there's all kinds of traffic on the roadways and those types of things. We're also going to talk about taking your driver's test in the wintertime, and I do encourage a lot of people to take their test in the wintertime. I know that there are many, many, many people who cancel and postpone their test until next year when all the snow is gone and the possibility of snow and ice on the roadways is no more. So they wait a few months to get their driver's license. It is easier to take your driver's test in the wintertime. In addition to that, it is easier to get a test date in the wintertime. I was talking to a friend of mine the other day, and just to book the learner's test, they were waiting until January to book a learner's test for their son who was eligible to write that learner's test. The wintertime, it's going to be easier to get a test date as well. Driving examiners are less stressed because they're not as busy, because not as many people are taking their test in the wintertime. There's less traffic on the roadway. There's no vulnerable road users on our roads because there's no cyclists. There's fewer pedestrians. There are not kids on scooters and e-bicycles and those types of things. So there's less traffic. In addition to that, in the wintertime, taking your test, it is less exact in the wintertime. You don't have to be 8 to 12 inches from the curb when you parallel park. You simply just have to get in you just have to get in behind the vehicle that's in front of you. You don't have to stop at the correct place at stop signed intersections. You just have to come up, stop before the sidewalk, creep out until you can see, and then proceed when traffic is clear and there is a way that it's safe for you to move through on the gap. Wintertime, I do strongly suggest that you take your test in the wintertime. In addition to that, you're going to have a higher skill set because you're going to know what it's like when roads are slippery and it isn't perfect traction to drive in the wintertime. Therefore, you're going to have a higher skill set and the driving examiner is going to give you kudos. If it does snow and it is bad weather, they're going to postpone your driving test. They will not make you take it on that day. They will postpone it to another day when it is safe to do that, owing to the fact that they know that you do not have a high skill level and they're not expecting you to drive around in crazy deep snow and try and parallel park and do maneuvers and whatnot. So they will postpone your test. Zachary, thanks for helping me pass my exam yesterday. What is the rules around listening to music? You can put on music while driving, but can you use the in-car screen legally and skip songs? For the first little while, Zachary, I would put the music on before you start driving the car, and then after 6 months, then you can start moving and skipping songs and those types of things. But right now, while you're still new and you're trying to figure everything out, and there's a lot of learning going on in the first year of driving by yourself, I would not recommend that you are playing with the in-screen telematics at all. Assign somebody else who's a passenger with you and those types of things. It's just going to confuse you. You're going to be distracted, and it is a reality of driving. So my suggestion with you is create your playlist before you start driving, put it on, and leave it alone. Do not use it while you're driving. Paul, what majority of drivers never put on their night lights? Paul, lots of people. Since probably 2012, all vehicles have an auto setting on their headlights. So therefore, they just hit it and quit it. They leave it on auto and they never turn their lights on. And this is the other advanced driving tip that will help you out. When it is raining, when it is overcast, low light conditions, turn your headlights to the on position to activate the taillights so other traffic on the roadway can see you. Yeah, Corey's put up the link for the winter survival kit. Thank you for that, Corey. Marion, thank you. Good to know. We have been known to get stuck in the parking lot in snow. Yes, and that will happen in the wintertime. And the one survival kit that I have, the one that I keep in the car, Marion, also comes with a shovel, and it's a pretty decent shovel. It's an aluminum shovel that is in the car, and if you get stuck in the parking lot, especially there where you live in Vancouver, you can shovel out around the wheels, and that will help you out, to get the vehicle out. And the other thing is you can rock the vehicle as well, right? You drive forward as far as you can, stop, put it into reverse, back up as far as you can, just before you get wheel spin. Don't spin the wheels. Back into forward and then reverse, and then you get kind of a track going, and then the car will move forward 2 feet, and then it'll back up 2 feet, forward 2 feet, back 2 feet, and that'll keep inching out until you get 3 or 4 feet. And then once you get to 4 feet, then you can just take a run at it and you can back out and get some momentum. And that's what you need to do to get your vehicle unstuck in the wintertime. Let's get over to the presentation here. We'll get through that and then we'll come back. We'll spend the remainder of the hour answering any questions, passing a driver's test, becoming a safer, smarter driver, or starting a career as a truck or bus driver. Dadgum winter, getting stuck in the snow, losing control of your vehicle and potentially going into the ditch. We're going to talk about skid recovery. We're going to talk about what happens if you are unfortunate enough to get into a collision, what you can do to protect yourself. First and foremost, in the event of a collision, make sure that you are wearing your seatbelt. Your seatbelt not only protects you in the event of a crash, but it also keeps you in the driver's seat. If you are not in the driver's seat, it's really tough to control and drive the vehicle. So wear your seatbelt at all times in the winter. For those of you new to Smart Drive Test, my name is Rick August. I was a truck driver in the 1990s. I hauled freight between Ontario, Canada, and the United States. mostly east of the Mississippi. However, I did make it out to the west, out to the west a couple of times. I made it out to Nebraska. We were talking about that a few weeks ago. If you look at the state of Nebraska, the only thing in Nebraska is Omaha, and Omaha is right at the eastern state line. So I did make it out there a few times, but mostly east of the Mississippi, a lot of New York City down to Florida and into Georgia and those types of things. Became a licensed commercial driving instructor in 1997. I've been a licensed commercial driving instructor in Ontario, Canada, Victoria, Australia. I lived in Australia for 5 years and drove buses for Greyhound and one of the regional bus lines there as well, and also a licensed commercial driving instructor here in the province of British Columbia. 2006, I graduated with my doctorate in legal history, which is the study of policing, courts, and prisons. My expertise is in policing as it relates to traffic. 2015, I started the online YouTube channel, and it has been wildly more successful than I could have ever imagined, helping tons and tons of smart drivers to become safer, smarter drivers on the roadway and pass a driver's test. All right, winter driving mistakes, that video from last week, I put it up. I thought it was really good to help people out with winter driving, and edited that and put it up on the Smart Drive Test YouTube channel, so definitely have a look at that. Washer fluid, it's going to be icky and ucky, and there's a lot of sand and dirt and salt and pickle mix, as it's called, in the maintenance industry on the roadway. So make sure that you put winter washer fluid into the reservoir in your vehicle. And the reason you want winter washer fluid is because it will not freeze. It's good for minus 40 degrees Celsius, minus 40 degrees Fahrenheit. If you don't put winter washer fluid into the reservoir, the windshield washer reservoir in your vehicle, it will freeze. And if it freezes, it will expand. As we know, water expands when it freezes, and therefore it'll break the reservoir tank, and that can be costly to repair. Try to stay away from sand trucks and snow plows on the roadway. Keep your distance. Stone chips on the windshield. The windshield on the buggy probably needs to be replaced soon. I think my daughter was counting them today as we were driving, and there's 6 or 7 stone chips. If you do get stone chips on your windshield from sand trucks and flying debris and whatnot, take it into a glass shop and get them fixed as quickly as possible, because if you don't get the stone chips fixed, they will develop into cracks along your windshield, and then you'll have to get the entire windshield replaced. Stone chips are about $60 to replace. Stone chips are about $60 to repair. A windshield is going to cost you anywhere from $500 to $2,000, depending on the type of vehicle you have and how many other things are in the windshield. For example, your radio antenna, GPS, those types of things. So a windshield can cost you a fair bit of money. So get your stone chips fixed quickly. Tires. You don't necessarily need dedicated winter tires on your vehicle. If you're just going to stay within the city and you're not going to drive out on the highways and roadways and those types of things, and you're not driving up to the ski hill every day, good all-season tires with either the 3-peak mountain snowflake symbol, or M&S, mud and snow tires. If you are driving up to the ski hill every day, or you're driving in a region where you have hard pack on the roadways, then you're going to need steel-studded tires. And check your state or check your province, the laws allowing steel-studded tires on your vehicle. I know here in the province of British Columbia, you can only have them on from October 1st till the 31st of March, and then you cannot be legally running steel-studded tires because they're incredibly hard on pavement. They dig up the pavement, and they really take they premature wear on the asphalt is what I'm trying to say. So make sure that you have them on your vehicle when you legally can. There's a lot of places you can't have steel-studded tires on your vehicles, but they are allowed here in the province of British Columbia. As I said, you don't necessarily need dedicated winter tires on your vehicle. However, they are much better than conventional all-season tires because the rubber compound is softer, and therefore the rubber moves and flexes a lot more, which gets rid of the snow in the tread of the tire, and it's that getting rid of the snow in the tires that allows for traction on the roadways, and they're going to perform much better on ice as well. All right, stopping on ice, get off the brake, get off the accelerator, and steer the vehicle in the direction you want to go as well. You're going to find with ABS brakes, and this is a misnomer amongst drivers on the roadway, is they think that ABS brakes are going to help them in the wintertime. The reality is that ABS brakes are not going to stop you in a shorter distance. In fact, in the wintertime, on slippery conditions, ABS brakes, if the ABS activates and kicks in, which is right down at the bottom of the pedal in the emergency stopping position, you're probably going to take longer to stop. And I have had experiences in the past where you're on the ABS, on the brakes, and the ABS is activated, and I've ended up in the middle of the intersection before I actually get the vehicle stopped. So you can avoid activating the ABS right at the bottom of the brake pedal, and just on the brakes, off the brakes, hit the brakes again, and then just not pumping the brakes, but on hard till almost wheel lock up, release, on again. That's probably going to get you slowed down sooner. If you do have, or if you do experience loss of traction and you can't get the vehicle stopped and it's just not grabbing and getting traction, then move to the right. Get out of the main tracks of the road. There's going to be some snow over there, and you might be able to find some traction that will allow you to get stopped. And the few times that I've got caught out at intersections, I come up and all of a sudden, oh my God, it's really slippery. I move to the right, and generally I find enough traction that will get me stopped. You might even be able to bang into the curb and get it stopped, but that's going to be better than you plowing through an intersection and potentially being hit in a T-bone crash. Loss of control. The reason we lose control of the vehicle on slippery conditions is because of too much steering, too much brake, too much acceleration. And we all know this because we've gone out in the wintertime, we played around in parking lots, we've given it lots of throttle, we go around and we do donuts and those types of things. This will teach you oversteering and understeering, and I'll talk more about that in the presentation here. But over braking is generally the reason that people get into trouble in the wintertime and lose control of the vehicle. In addition to that, there's just simply too much steering in combination with the braking. So off the brake, off the accelerator, steer the vehicle in the direction that you want it to go. Slush and deep snow. Slush and deep snow is going to push you around because you're not in the tracks. So go slow at a speed that will allow you to control the vehicle as you're moving forward. Know that generally when you're on multi-lane roads and it has snowed and you get a lot of slush, you'll get windrows of slush between the lanes of traffic. And if you change lanes from one lane to another, you're going to have to cross that slush. Know that the vehicle may dance around a little bit as you're moving through that slush. So you got to work the throttle. As soon as you start losing control, get off the throttle and then get back on the throttle and get going again. All vehicles in this day and age are going to be front-wheel drive, rear-wheel drive. All vehicles in this day and age are going to be front-wheel drive, all-wheel drive, or four-wheel drive. There are going to be very, very few rear-wheel drive vehicles on the roadway. So you're going to have good traction owing to the drivetrain of the vehicle. Focus on where you want to go. Stay straight, brake in a straight line. If the vehicle is out of line or on a curve going around a corner and you hit the brakes, that's when you could get into trouble. As well, going around curves, make sure that you slow down before the curve and have slight power to the drivetrain when you're going around the curve. Not accelerating, but you want power to the wheels. Passing large vehicles. Large vehicles are going to kick up a lot of spray. They're going to kick up a lot of snow. If it is melting and there is a lot of spray and there's been a lot of salt put down on the roadways and whatnot, make sure that you have your windshield wipers on. Make sure that your windshield washer fluid is topped up so that you can clean the windshield and keep the glass clean for maximum visibility. Stay back. If it is snowing heavily and you're having difficulty finding the roadway, please don't turn on your four-way flashers. It's distracting to other drivers on the roadway. We all know that it's snowing heavily. We know that conditions have deteriorated. Stay back. Identify the landmarks, the traffic signs along the roadways, utility poles, intersections, other traffic on the roadway. Look for your landmarks and look for changing light conditions when you're going under underpasses and other places where potentially all of a sudden it could go from light to getting dark, tunnels and whatnot. Chop steering. If you're going around a corner and you're experiencing understeering where the vehicle has continued to go straight and it's not turning, first get your foot off the accelerator, start slowing down as much as you can. Don't use the brake, just take your foot off the throttle. And then steering, okay? Jerk the steering wheel. So if you want to go left, jerk the steering wheel left, bring it back to straight. Jerk the steering wheel, bring it back to straight, jerk it. Because what happens is that when you turn, the wheels stop rolling. And as soon as the wheels stop rolling, the vehicle is being pushed forward and you're not getting any steering. When you bring the wheels back to straight, the wheels start rolling again and they get traction, and then you can turn again. That's chop steering, and it's used all the time in rally car racing to get traction and to move around corners when there is compromised traction on gravel roads and whatnot, and this works on snow as well. Look in the direction that you want the vehicle to go. Skid control, first and foremost, drive for the conditions of the roadway. Generally, when there's a lot of snow on the roadways, there's compromised traction, the speed that the flow of traffic is traveling is generally the speed that you want to drive. If you're driving faster than the flow of traffic when conditions are bad, you're driving too fast. Steer in the direction you want to go, chop steering, get off the brake, get off the accelerator, and look for some place that you can get traction. Move the vehicle to the right, and generally that will allow you to get traction so that you can get the vehicle stopped. Skid recovery, steer in the direction you want to go. We've had this discussion before about older drivers, old driver education, which is when in a skid, turn in the direction of the skid. Well, which way is the skid? You don't have time to figure this out. From my personal experience and listening to other people's account, when they start to lose control of their vehicle, it happens very quickly, and you do not have time to be figuring out which way the skid is going. Steer the vehicle in the direction that you want it to go. It's that simple, because if the skid is going in the direction of a ditch or a cliff, that's not where you want to go. So steer the direction that you want it to go. As I mentioned in the introduction, wear your seatbelt. Your seatbelt not only protects you in the event of a crash, it also keeps you in the driver's seat that you can work the primary controls and potentially get yourself out of trouble. If a crash is imminent, get your speed down as much as possible. Get on the brake, lock it up. Try and slow down as much as possible. Look in the direction that you want to go. Try and hit something with a glancing blow, not drive straight into something like a tree or a rock or whatnot. If you have a choice between a head-on crash and a sideswipe crash, pick the sideswipe crash every time. Sideswipe crashes generally only result in property damage. Head-on crashes, on the other hand, are not going to result in just property damage. There's going to be injuries. There's going to be fatalities. Okay, steer like a crazy person and don't give up. Too many people get into a crash because they simply resign themselves to the fact that they've lost control of their vehicle and there isn't anything you can do to get it under control. Don't give up. Keep working. Keep working the brake, trying to get your speed slowed down. Keep working the steering wheel to trying to get it back to straight. Okay, aim for something small. Aim for something soft. So, good tires on your vehicle, winter washer fluid. Make sure that you have good windshield wipers on your vehicle in the wintertime, because you're going to get lots of spray coming off other traffic and whatnot. Drive and adjust to the conditions of the roadway. As conditions deteriorate, slow down. Okay? As a general rule for new drivers, do not drive faster than the flow of traffic. If weather is bad, the speed at which the flow of traffic is going is the speed you want to drive. Until you get more comfortable driving in the wintertime and know the limitations of yourself and the limitations of your vehicle, do not drive faster than the flow of traffic. Tires, as I said, if you're not going outside the city and you're just driving around in winter conditions in the wintertime, as long as you have all-season tires that have the Three Peaks mountain snowflake symbol on them, or they have M&S, mud and snow, you're going to be just fine. Winter tires are definitely going to help you out. They're much better in the wintertime. They're a softer rubber compound, and it flexes and allows better traction. The downside of winter tires, and this is the reason we take them off when the temperatures warm up, is because the rubber compound is so soft that in the summertime they'll wear out prematurely really quickly. They only last you a couple of seasons if you're driving them over the summertime. So don't drive on them in the summertime. Get them off your vehicle. Skid control. If you start losing control of your vehicle, get your foot off the accelerator, get your foot off the brake, steer the vehicle in the direction that you want to go. Aim for something small, glancing blow. If you have the choice between a head-on crash and a side swipe crash, pick the side swipe crash every time in the winter time. And remember, pick the best answer, not necessarily the right answer. Marion, if you jerk the steering wheel like that, would it cause the car to spin around? Marion, no, because you're not holding it down very long. You're just bringing it down and then bringing it straight back up. It's quick motion. It's down, back up, down, back up, down, back up. So, and it's slight too. It's like 3-4 inches on the steering wheel. It's not very much. It's not like you're doing a half a turn. Okay. It's a little bit and then back. Okay. So it's very small movements on the steering wheel when you're doing that chop steering. But as I said, Marion, you're probably never going to drive fast enough on slippery conditions that's ever going to happen to you. So it's going to be a last resort if you experience understeering and you can't get control of your vehicle. All right, there we go. Retired, how are you, my friend? I thought about you driving in the fog on I-95 this past Sunday at 32 degrees. Yes, exactly what Retired just said about 32 degrees with fog on I-95. If it's overnight and there's very little traffic on the interstate at that time in the morning, that's probably when you're going to get ice on the interstate, because 32 degrees is freezing and you got a lot of precipitation, a lot of moisture. That's when you're going to get ice on the highways. Exactly what Retired just said. Yes, those are perfect conditions for ice on the highways. 22 is a fresh G2 driver. Listen to this, man. Yes, indeed. We'll definitely help you out and keep you out of the ditches. Corey, there are nuances with different jurisdictions, but a rule of thumb, if police see obvious distracted driving, you can bet they have a casual authority to pull you over. So as Rick said, get that set up before you go. Curious, does your vehicle have media controls on the steering wheel? Yes. That's the other thing. I keep forgetting that, Corey, that other people have advanced vehicles and they have volume controls and whatnot on the steering wheel. So that's going to reduce your distractions. And if you do have that, if you have telematics and you have the screen in the center of the dashboard, there's a high probability, as Corey was just saying, that you have volume controls and skip and go back a song. All those are on your steering wheel. And just before you take off and you start driving, if you're a new driver, just take a little bit of time and practice using those controls on the steering wheel so you can do that while you're driving. And that way you're just doing it without, you're looking down and you're just pushing the buttons and skipping through the songs and whatnot. Excellent point there. Thank you for that. Retired, there were warnings for icy road conditions. Thanks, Rick. You are most welcome, my friend. And in addition to that, most newer vehicles, anything past 2012, is going to have a temperature gauge inside the vehicle telling you what the temperature is outside. And take note of that. If the temperature is around freezing, if it's 32 degrees Fahrenheit or it's 0 degrees Celsius, know that there's, and there's moisture, there's fog, there's rain, precipitation, drizzle. There was snow on the ground the day before and it was melting because temperature was above 0, and then it went down to freezing overnight. There is a high probability that there is going to be ice on the roadway. So pay attention to that temperature inside the vehicle that's telling you what the outside temperature is as well. In addition to that, we all have phones. We all have weather apps on our phone. Look at that before you take off. And this information is going to help you out when you're driving in the wintertime to identify and locate ice on the roadways. Paul, by the way, you and the family flying to Calgary. My train from Toronto to Vancouver is Sunday. All right, excellent. And how long is the train ride from Toronto to Vancouver? Is that like 3 days, Paul? Marion, you can almost feel the car shiver at that temperature. At 0, that's not when you can feel the car shivering. I can remember one time I got into the car in Ottawa and it was minus 36. and you can everything. It's the entire car is just like an ice cube. Everything is frozen, and when you turn the key to start it up, it was the same thing when we were in Golden. It was minus 35 degrees. It was just like turn the key to the on position, wait a couple of minutes for all the electricity to kind of flow through it, and then just kind of cross your fingers and turn it over and hope that it starts. But I will tell you that I am old enough to remember cars before electronic fuel injection. Back in the old days when we had carburetors and you had to get in, you'd pump the fuel pedal 3 times and then you'd start it up. And, and if it didn't start on the first go, then you had to hold the throttle, the accelerator all the way to the floor, and then it would sit there on high idle for 20 minutes until it warmed up. Electronic fuel injection is just a phenomenal automotive technological advance in the wintertime with these cars, the way that they start. So, cold starts, just amazing with electronic fuel injection. And the computers on them are always adjusting the air intake to the fuel intake, and it's so much better than it was in the old days. So Marion says, you've never experienced that kind of cold. Marion, when it is that kind of cold, minus 35 degrees Celsius, minus 30 degrees Fahrenheit, it is just frigid cold. Look at the video Corey will put up for you on cold weather starts with the Audi. With the 2014 Audi, I think it was minus 24 that morning. It was just, the vehicle, like anything past minus 15 degrees Celsius, which is like minus 5 degrees Fahrenheit, it's just frozen. Like frozen. It is just like you don't even take your mitts off. You just have your mitts on and you hold the steering wheel and you just hope that it starts. Now, for those of you who have newer vehicles and you have push button start vehicles, the proper procedure for starting them up in the wintertime when it's super cold, keep your foot off the brake pedal because you have to hold the brake pedal in order to get the engine to turn over to start. Keep your foot off the brake pedal, push start, let it turn on to accessory, give it like 30 seconds, allow all the electricity to kind of flow through, and then what happens is the computer makes its adjustments for the cold weather temperature and the fuel intake into the engine, and then after 30 seconds, once everything kind of warms up a little bit, put your foot on the brake pedal, then push the push start and start the engine. And there's a huge debate. And of course, all the electronic stores and automotive shops are selling remote starters for vehicles in the wintertime. So I'm never going to win this argument about the fact that once you start up the engine on your vehicle, the length of time it takes you to clean the snow and ice off the glass and the roof and the lights on your vehicle, that's as long as you need to start up your vehicle. I mean, that's as long as you need to run the vehicle to warm it up. You don't need to let it sit there for 15 or 20 minutes. And in addition to that, I have smart drivers that will come back and they'll say to me, oh, you cannot warm it up too fast. Believe me, the vehicle does not warm up too fast in the wintertime. Even right now, when the temperature here is only around 0, I can drive my car for 5 or 8 minutes and it still hasn't warmed up to operating temperature of the engine. So you don't have to let it sit there and run for 15 or 20 minutes. But, as I said, I'm never going to win this argument because people will say it'll heat up too fast and then you'll warp the metal in the engine. That will never happen. That will never happen. In addition to that, there's a thermostat inside the engine which controls the cooling system. If the engine does heat up too fast, that thermostat opens up and allows the coolant to move through the engine block, which will cool everything down. You're never going to heat up an engine too fast in the wintertime that it's going to cause it to warp. That's just misnomer. People coming at me with that. 22, yeah, it gets pretty cold here in Canada, so I understand that type of cold. Yeah, it depends where you live in Canada, but I have experienced it on the prairies, I've experienced it in the mountains, and I've experienced it in Ottawa, so yes. 22, yeah, automotive tech. Yeah, people telling me, oh, you'll warp the engine if you drive it. And the other thing I say about people is that, you have to drive it to warm up the other components of the vehicle. You're not going to warm up the transmission. You're not going to warm up the diff or anything else. And you're depositing moisture into the exhaust system. You actually have to drive it to get that moisture evaporated out of the exhaust system in the wintertime, because if you don't drive it enough and don't warm it up and it just sits there and idles, you're going to collect a lot of moisture inside the exhaust system and cause it to wear prematurely. That's the other danger of this as well. So you don't need to warm up your car in the wintertime beyond cleaning the snow and ice off. Yes, it's going to be a little bit cool, for the first couple of miles of driving it, but then it will heat up and you'll start to get heat out of it. The last piece of this with driving in the wintertime and heating up the engine and driving it, when you turn on the heater inside the cabin of the car, now you're drawing more heat off the engine, and the engine is going to heat up even slower. This is a trick, an advanced trick that you can do in the summertime. If you have a cooling problem, something is wrong with the cooling system on your car and it's overheating, you can turn the heater on inside the cabin and that will draw heat off the engine. Knowing that, in the wintertime, when people will come back to me and say, oh, if you heat the car up too fast, you're going to warp the engine and those types of things, you're running the heater inside the cabin. Therefore, you're drawing even more heat off the engine and it's going to heat up even slower than what it normally would. So in addition to nothing besides the engine warms up when it's sitting there idling, the drivetrain, transmission, and all the other components are only heating up when you're driving it. It's going to heat up faster when you're driving. It's not going to heat up very fast because it's already sub-zero temperatures. And in addition to that, you're running the heater in the wintertime, so you're drawing heat off the engine. That's my whole argument about why you need to drive the vehicle in order to get the engine to heat up in the wintertime, and it's going to heat up faster. And you cannot heat it up too fast. All the people that come back to me and have a go at me about their car idling in the wintertime. But as I said, I've resigned myself to the fact that I am never, ever going to win this argument, that you don't need to let your vehicle sit for 15, 20 minutes to heat it up. The only thing that you are doing is creature comforts, that you are being a little namby-pamby and you can't sit in the car for a couple of minutes while it warms up and you're driving it. Marion, is that why they say to put the heat on when climbing the Coquihalla in the summer heat? I don't really understand that. Marion, that's exactly why they say to do that. But any modern vehicle, your 2017 HRV, doesn't need you to turn the heat on in the summertime going up the Coquihalla. However, if it does start to heat up, which is not likely that it's going to do, because your HRV also has electric fans in front of the radiator, that the electric fans will fire up and they will start drawing more air in over the motor to help it cool down. You don't need to turn the heat on. But that's exactly the reason, is because the heater draws heat off the engine and will help to cool it. If you are overheating, yes, that's what you can do. 22, yeah, no, I know. There's no winning that argument. I've resigned myself to that. But I keep saying it, but I know I'm not going to win. Winter survival kit. Corey's put that video up. Thank you for that. How do you start your car in extreme weather? Corey's put that video up for as well. Have a look at that, because I was standing outside making a video when it was minus 25 degrees out. So love me. Give me some love. Epic, my friend, in the winter time, do you recommend adding in fuel additives? This is what my father did recently. He just put in additives also at the same time as this. Should you be carrying salt or chains for your trip? Epic, salt or chains, it depends where you're going. Okay, if you're going to go up to the mountains, you're going out into the back bush in the wintertime, then yes, definitely do that. As well, if temperatures are getting down sub-zero, then what your dad is doing, he is putting gasoline antifreeze into the fuel tank. Yes, you can put those additives in as well. Fuel lock, my doors will freeze on the old buggy. Got a little bit of lock de-icer in there as well. You can put that in. Make sure that you put winter washer fluid into the wiper system so that you keep the glass clear and keep yourself safe with maximum visibility in the wintertime. And salt and chains, yes, if you're traveling into the back roads, backcountry, mountains, those types of things, then yes, you definitely want that in your vehicle. Zachary, Pressing like a skip button on a Subaru screen was saying it was illegal, but why would a screen if it's illegal? There's your question. Why is there a telematic screen in the vehicle if it's illegal? Because you're going to be distracted. I had one of those cars when I was, we rented one when I was in Australia. Those screens are distracting. Assign finding radio stations and those types of things to somebody else in the vehicle. Don't be doing it yourself when you're driving. Get all that stuff set up before you start driving, especially as a new driver, because you're going to be distracted, and those screens, in my opinion, are the ultimate in distractions for drivers, and especially new drivers on the roadway. Gigi, what's the pros and cons when it comes to buying a secondhand vehicle? Gigi, pros and cons. Okay, high mileage. High mileage, it depends on the kind of vehicle that you're driving. Every vehicle is going to tell you a story. You need to figure out what that story is. The other thing about secondhand vehicles, are there any crashes on the vehicle? If there's 3 or 4 minor crashes on the vehicle, walk away from it. Don't buy the vehicle. Corey will put up the videos for you. There's a couple of videos here on buying secondhand vehicles and things that you need to be looking at and whatnot. Are there dings and dents in the body? Has it been looked after? Regular oil changes? Are there service records? Are there things inside the vehicle that are worn? Is there something that is a known cost that is broken on the vehicle? So you're approaching the vehicle and you're saying to yourself, okay, what is wrong with this vehicle? For example, I looked at a Honda Civic some years ago that I was looking to buy, and the reverse lights didn't work on it, which is not something that most people would check. But make sure that you check all the lights on the vehicle before you decide that you're going to buy it. The reverse lights weren't working. Now, it could be something as simple as a fuse. It could be something that is a short in the car. That's not a known expense, and it could run you into a couple of $1,000s to figure out why the reverse lights aren't working on the vehicle. The other thing about the vehicle is that the tires were bald on it. Tires are a known cost. You know that for most vehicles, it's going to cost you $1,000. If it's a big pickup truck, it's going to cost you $2,000 for tires. Knowing that is something that allows you to negotiate the price with the seller. So, for example, if they're asking $10,000 for it, but you know that it needs tires, you can say, okay, tires are going to cost $1,500, therefore I'm willing to give you $8,500 for this car. Never give somebody the price that they're asking for a vehicle. The price on the vehicle is always negotiable, and it's for you to determine what is wrong with the vehicle that you can negotiate a price. For example, another example is the Audi. It's got a paint chip on it on the back quarter fender. Somebody come to me and said, listen, that paint chip's going to probably cost $800 or $900 to get that fixed at a body shop. I'd say, okay. And then they offer me $1,000 less for the car. I'd say, okay, there you go. So these are the kinds of things that are going to allow you to negotiate the price of the vehicle. If you don't have service records, you want to know that it has been maintained, that all the things that need to be done and maintained on the vehicle have been done over the life of the vehicle. So if it's at 150,000 kilometers, 100,000 miles, has it had regular oil changes according to the owner's manual? Have the tires been rotated? Other things that need to be done. 100,000 miles, it usually needs a transmission flush. Has the transmission been flushed? Those are all the questions that you want to ask when you buy a secondhand vehicle. Gigi, I saw a 2015 Lexus 250. It has 57,000 kilometers. I am hesitant to buy it because of the mileage. You said 57. Am I reading that right? 57,000 kilometers? Because of the mileage, it looks great, but I'm still in doubt. Okay, 57,000 kilometers. 57,000 kilometers isn't anything. That's nothing. But again, do your due diligence, do your research on it. Are the service records available? Okay, I probably can't be reading that right because you said it's a 2015, 57,000 kilometers. Is it an elderly person that's had this car? Because 57,000 kilometers, that means that in 10 years, that thing has only been driven 5,000 kilometers a year, which is like The average vehicle is driven 20 to 30,000 kilometers a year, which is driven, 18 to 25,000 miles a year is the average mileage on the vehicle. Okay, 57,000 kilometers. You're right. That is really low mileage on a 2015. Really low mileage. So the first question I have would be, Gigi, why is the mileage so low on it? You got to figure out that question. Has it just been sitting in the garage and it's been an elderly person and they've had it for 10 years and they just haven't driven it? In that instance, you may be getting a really good vehicle because 57,000 kilometers on a 10-year-old car that's zero mileage. It's the same thing as the van we bought for my mom. It only had 130,000 kilometers on it. It was 19 years old. That's nothing. Absolutely nothing. Retired, go for top tier gas because in the long term you would be putting in something like a catalytic converter cleaner and at the same time fuel system cleaner. My father had to do this now. Yes, and talking about premium fuel, if you have a vehicle that has a turbocharger on it, it's high performance, it has a supercharger on it, it's a sports car, anything with something that is ram forcing air into the engine, you need to be running premium fuel on it. If you talk to my brother, who's a technician, a mechanic, he runs premium fuel in everything that he owns. So me personally, I'm not really convinced that I need to be running premium fuel in the buggy. I could potentially, but generally I just run regular in it. But if you do have a high performance car, like for example, where to go here? The car that Gigi is looking at, the Lexus, you definitely want to be running premium fuel in it. Gigi, I want to, and I love it, but I am in doubt, honestly, and it looks amazingly great. Gigi, if you love it and you've done your homework on it, it sounds like a great vehicle. It's a Lexus. It's 57,000. I mean, you send me an email. You can send me the advertisement for it. I'll definitely have a look at it and tell you what I think and help you out as much as I can. But, service records, is it in good nick? Is there any body damage on it? Is there any unusual wear, things that you're inexplicable that you need to try and figure out on it? But, I would definitely have a look at that. So, do what you can. Winter driving, that's what we've been talking about. It is more slippery when the temperature is around freezing than it is when it is sub-zero temperatures. Think of it like ice cubes when you first take them out of the freezer. When you first take them out of the freezer, they're sticky. You can pick them up and handle them. A minute or two sitting on the counter, they've begun to thaw. There's a layer of water on them, and they'll shoot across the counter. Snow and ice in the wintertime is exactly the same as that. When the temperature is around freezing, there's a layer of water on top of the snow and ice, making it super slippery. And ask me about that because yesterday I was at the dog park and I was walking across the log on the creek. It's only 4 feet above the creek. It's not like it's 100 feet in the air, but it's 4 feet. Stepped on the ice because the temperature was around freezing. Layer of water on it. Guess where I ended up? In the creek. So I can attest to how slippery snow and ice is when the temperature is around freezing. Because yes, I fell in the creek and I was wet. And I walked back the last half of the dog walk with wet jeans on. Know that in the wintertime when the temperature is around freezing, it is going to be more slippery. Adjust your speed, have good winter tires on your vehicle, wipers, windshield washer fluid in the reservoir, fill it up. If you're going out on the highway, make sure that you put an emergency kit in your vehicle with shovel, traction mats, booster cables. Have food, have clothing, blankets, water in your vehicle, as well have a charging cable for your phone. Keep yourself safe in the wintertime. If you're running on hardpack up and down to the mountains and those types of things, know that you can have studded tires on your vehicle in certain places. Check your state, check your regulations, make sure whether you can have steel studded tires on your vehicle or not. But have quality tires on your vehicle. All season tires that have the 3-peak mountain snowflake symbol or M&S, mud and snow. And be safe in the wintertime. Adjust your speed accordingly. If you start to lose control, get your foot off the brake, get your foot off the throttle, wear your seatbelt, keep yourself in the driver's seat, and look in the direction you want the vehicle to go. Yes, it was, Marion. It was a bit of a rude wake up when I fell in the creek. GG, Rick at smartdrivetest.com. Rick at smartdrivetest.com. You send me an email, I'll definitely look at the listing for you there. Definitely help you out. You have any questions, leave a comment down in the comment section. Make sure you check out Pass Driver's Test First Time. We include both the winter and defensive driving smart courses. You can pick that up over at the Smart Drive Test website for about $38. Definitely help you in the wintertime and to pass your driver's test, which is easier to do in the wintertime, and you're going to end up with a higher skill set. Do that. Don't postpone it until next spring. And remember, pick the best answer, not necessarily the right answer. Have a great night. All the best. Bye.